Subscribe if you want more workplace drama. I need to tell you about the day my whole tech team almost tore me apart. I am a project lead at a mid-size marketing firm in Chicago. My boss, Claire, is sharp and career-focused. She wants a spotless annual review. Ethan, a senior analyst on my team, wants the promotion that I think is undeserved. HR rep Renee usually keeps peace but can be surprisingly procedural. My motive was simple: protect my team and our small budget of $10,000 for client experiments. Claire's motive: protect metrics. Ethan's motive: make himself look indispensable. It started with a Monday morning Slack thread. An auditor's email surfaced claiming I had cleared a $1,000 vendor refund that never happened. The message had my name as approver. I stared at it. I had not approved anything. My badge logs showed I was in meetings at the time. Then someone replied with a screenshot from the company audit portal that looked damning. "What would you do if you were blamed for a fake refund?" I clicked the portal link and my heart sank as the first red flag blinked on my screen. The portal showed my username stamped beside a $1,000 approval. The timestamp was Friday evening at 7:42 p.m. I was nowhere near my computer then. I had left the office at 6 sharp to catch a train out of the city. But Slack was already buzzing. Ethan had posted a dramatic message tagging our whole team. "We need to talk about accountability. This kind of mistake costs us clients." My stomach dropped. Ethan knew exactly how to stir panic. Claire, my boss, quickly replied asking for a full explanation before finance escalates. I tried typing a defense, but 3 different teammates jumped in with anxious questions. Had I approved it by accident? Did I share my password? Was my account compromised? The worst part was Renee from HR joining the thread, saying we should keep communications professional while she scheduled a compliance meeting. That only made everyone more tense. I typed slowly, carefully, "I did not approve this transaction. I was not online at that time. I will investigate." Still, the damage was done. By the end of the day, whispers had started, people wondering if I had rushed to cover my tracks. And as I shut my laptop, I realized the only person who could possibly have pushed this narrative so fast was sitting just a few desks away. How far would Ethan go to prove it? The next morning, I walked into the office with one goal: prove I wasn't anywhere near that portal when the refund went through. Security logs were my first line of defense. Every employee badge swipe was recorded, and I had left the building well before the suspicious timestamp. I emailed the facilities manager and asked for my Friday evening entry and exit report. Within an hour, he sent me the PDF, badge out at 6:03 p.m., no return. Solid proof. I forwarded the log to Claire, expecting relief. Instead, she replied, "Logs prove you weren't in the office, but approvals can happen remotely." My chest tightened. She was right, I often logged in from home. Now, the badge report didn't clear me as much as I thought. Meanwhile, Ethan was playing the role of concerned colleague. He casually mentioned to Claire in front of me, it would be smart to check if his laptop shows activity. The implication was obvious. If my device had connected remotely, it would look like I had done the approval after hours. Claire nodded and asked me to hand over my laptop to IT for forensic review. I agreed, but unease crept in. If someone had used my credentials, the machine might still implicate me. As IT carried my laptop away, I caught Ethan watching me with the faintest smirk. That was when I knew someone was setting me up. With my laptop locked away in IT, I felt stripped of defense. Every glance from co-workers carried suspicion, and Ethan seemed to thrive in the tension. That afternoon, while I was buried in emails, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I answered, and it was the vendor supposedly tied to the $1,000 refund. The representative spoke carefully, almost in a whisper. He said, "We didn't process any refund. But we did receive an email from your company domain requesting it. The message was odd, it came from an account we've never dealt with before, but it mentioned your name." I froze. Someone had spoofed my identity. I asked him to forward the email, and when it arrived in my inbox minutes later, my stomach knotted. The sender's address looked almost identical to mine, except for one small change, an extra period in the middle. At first glance, anyone would have believed it was me. I forwarded the message to Claire immediately, hoping this would prove my innocence. She responded with a short line that chilled me, "We'll include this in the review. Please stay available for questions." She didn't sound convinced. And when I turned back to my desk, Ethan was already typing furiously on Slack, as if he knew exactly what had just happened. But how could he have known before I told anyone? The next morning, Renee from HR summoned me to a conference room with Claire already seated. On the table lay a printed screenshot of the suspicious approval. The strange part? This version of the portal image looked different from the one shared earlier in Slack. The buttons, the timestamp placement, subtle changes, but enough to make me question its authenticity. I leaned forward and asked, "Where did this screenshot come from?" Renee said it had been sent anonymously through the company's whistleblower inbox. My pulse spiked. Someone was feeding staged evidence through official channels. Claire looked at me, waiting for me to crack. I pointed out the differences, but Claire wasn't fully convinced. "Screens can vary by device resolution," she said, trying to sound neutral. Ethan, conveniently, wasn't in the room. Yet this mysterious screenshot painted me deeper into a corner. As the meeting ended, Renee added, "Until IT finishes with your laptop, avoid approving any transactions." It sounded less like advice and more like a restriction. Walking back to my desk, I couldn't shake the feeling that Ethan had anticipated every move. If he was behind this, he wasn't just sabotaging me, he was orchestrating a narrative. And then, a message popped into my inbox with a subject line that made me stop cold: "Backup copy, do not share." Would you trust an anonymous backup file if it landed in your email? The email contained a single attachment labeled backup_ledger.csv. I hesitated before opening it. When I finally did, the file displayed rows of transactions, including the disputed one. But this time, the approver column was blank. No username. It looked like raw system data before names were attached. My pulse raced. This could be the evidence I needed. But if I brought it forward, how would I explain receiving it anonymously? I closed the file and walked straight to Renee's office. She motioned me inside, her usual calm demeanor masking curiosity. I explained that there were inconsistencies and suggested she pressure IT to speed up the review. She listened but didn't commit. Then she leaned forward and asked something unexpected: "Do you think anyone on your team has reason to set you up?" The question jolted me. Was she giving me an opening to say Ethan's name? If I accused him without proof, I'd look desperate. So I played it safe, saying, "I have suspicions, but I'd rather wait for evidence." Renee nodded, scribbling notes. As I left, I noticed Ethan already waiting in the hall, pretending to check his phone. He looked up with a knowing grin, as if he had been listening through the door. Later that day, ID finally emailed, "Laptop review complete. Please come to the lab." But what they showed me there didn't make sense at all. In the IT lab, a technician pulled up my laptop's activity logs on a large monitor. "Here's the odd part," he said. "Your laptop shows a remote login Friday at 7:41 p.m. right before the transaction." My jaw tightened. I hadn't touched the machine after leaving the office. The text scrolled further. The connection had come through a virtual private network, or VPN, masking the true origin. Still, it looked like my device had been active. I pointed at the log. "Can you tell if this was me or someone else?" He shrugged. "All we know is your credentials were used." It felt like the floor was tilting beneath me. If Ethan had gotten hold of my login details, it would explain everything, but proving it was another matter. Just then, my phone buzzed with another anonymous message: "Check the metadata." Attached was the same backup file I had seen earlier. I opened it again, this time right there in the lab. Buried in the file properties was a creator tag, not my username, but Ethan's personal work alias, the one he used for side projects. My chest pounded. Finally, something solid. The problem was, if I revealed this file, I'd also have to admit I was receiving anonymous leaks. And before I could decide what to do, Claire called me into her office with Ethan already sitting inside. Claire's office felt like a courtroom. Ethan sat across from me, leaning back with calm confidence. Claire gestured for me to close the door. "We've reviewed preliminary findings," she began. "Your laptop shows remote activity. But we also know the vendor received a suspicious request tied to your name. Help me understand why." I explained everything: the badge logs, the spoofed email, the inconsistencies in the screenshots. Ethan jumped in smoothly. "It sounds like he's building excuses. The portal logs don't lie." His words stung. Claire's eyes flicked between us, clearly weighing which story to trust. That's when I decided to take a risk. I pulled out my phone and opened the backup file. This was sent to me anonymously. I hesitated to share it, "But you need to see this." I pointed to the file properties showing Ethan's alias. Claire's eyebrows shot up. Ethan's smile faltered for the first time. "That's ridiculous," he said quickly. "Anyone could fake metadata." The tension crackled. Renee from HR appeared at the door, holding a folder. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, But we just received another anonymous submission. She handed the papers to Claire. My breath caught as Claire flipped the pages. Her expression hardened, and she looked directly at Ethan. What would you do if the evidence suddenly turned against the accuser? Claire spread the new papers across her desk. They were printouts of chat logs, internal Slack messages pulled from an account using Ethan's credentials. The messages showed detailed instructions about staging screenshots and sending them to the whistleblower inbox. Each message was signed off with a smirk emoji, Ethan's trademark. Ethan's face drained of color. "Those are fabricated," he blurted. "Anyone could have hacked my Slack." But even as he spoke, his voice shook. Claire's tone was icy. "We'll have IT verify these logs. Until then, I suggest you tread carefully." For the first time, I saw the mask slip. Ethan had built his entire persona around being the reliable analyst, the guy who never missed a detail. But now, every detail was pointing straight back to him. Still, I knew Claire wasn't fully convinced. Evidence could be manipulated, and Ethan was slippery enough to twist any situation. If I wanted to end this once and for all, I needed a direct trap, something undeniable. That night, I stayed late in the office, staring at my screen long after everyone left. The only way forward was to make Ethan reveal himself in real time. And I had just the plan to make that happen. The next morning, I staged a fake vendor email from the same address that had been spoofed. I marked it urgent and forwarded it to Ethan, copying Claire in. Then I quietly watched from my desk, pretending to work while monitoring Slack notifications. Within 20 minutes, Ethan opened the email. His typing was quick, almost panicked. He began drafting a reply, trying to cover his tracks, but his mistakes were obvious. He accidentally referenced my name in a comment meant to be private. I screenshot everything. Claire, alerted by my message, came over just in time to see the final draft before it was deleted. "Ethan," she said, voice cold, "explain this." He stumbled, then sputtered, I thought I could clarify the logs before it escalated." Renee entered and added, "We've verified your Slack activity, Ethan. All of it matches these timestamps and instructions." The room went silent except for the hum of computers. Ethan's confident facade crumbled. Every eye was on him. I realized just how calculated he had been. Months of subtle sabotage, using everyone's trust in the company's systems to create doubt around me. Claire finally spoke, her tone cutting. "You're suspended immediately pending further investigation." As Ethan slumped in his chair, the team outside peeked through the glass walls, whispers growing. But just as I exhaled, thinking it was over, I noticed one last unexpected email pop into my inbox. The new email wasn't from the vendor. It was from another internal account, flagged as confidential. I opened it carefully and froze. It contained a screenshot of Ethan trying to manipulate IT's VPN logs. He had been planning to cover the original remote login he used to stage the refund. I forwarded it immediately to Claire and Renee. Claire's jaw tightened as she read, and Renee's eyes widened behind her glasses. This was the smoking gun. Ethan had orchestrated the spoofed email, the fake portal screenshots, and even the anonymous backup file. Ethan's face went pale when Claire turned to him. "Explain this attempt to alter system logs," she demanded. His voice trembled. I didn't think anyone would check that fast. I only wanted to." He trailed off, realizing the gravity of his own words. The team outside had gathered by the glass now. People whispered, but the tension shifted, suspicion evaporated, replaced by vindication. My badge logs, my laptop records, the vendor email, and now IT verification all painted a clear picture. I had been framed. Claire looked at me, a small nod acknowledging my patience and composure. "We'll handle HR proceedings, but your integrity is clear." I exhaled, finally letting the stress release. But even with Ethan exposed, I knew there would be lingering questions about trust and accountability within the team. And as I sat back at my desk, Ethan's smirk completely gone, I realized the office drama had one more twist to reveal. The following week, the office atmosphere shifted. Whispers about Ethan's suspension spread quickly, but the focus wasn't on me anymore, it was on the elaborate setup he had created. Claire scheduled a team meeting to clear the air, and for the first time in days, I felt relief. During the meeting, Claire outlined the findings. Ethan had manipulated Slack, portal screenshots, and even IT logs to frame me. She emphasized the importance of verification, communication, and not jumping to conclusions based on incomplete information. The team listened quietly, some faces apologetic, others just relieved it wasn't them caught in the crossfire. Ethan's absence was palpable. My co-workers avoided discussing him directly, But I could see the unspoken lesson: the office wasn't immune to sabotage, and trust had to be earned and maintained carefully. I received a few apologies from colleagues who had doubted me, and that helped patch the subtle tension that had built over the past week. Renee from HR reminded us that proper reporting channels were essential, and encouraged anyone with concerns to speak up early. Claire also personally thanked me for keeping calm and providing every piece of evidence necessary to resolve the situation. Walking back to my desk after the meeting, I realized how quickly office dynamics could shift, from suspicion to vindication, from tension to cautious optimism. But just as I settled in, I noticed a Slack notification from an unfamiliar alias hinting at one more secret about Ethan's plan. The Slack message was short but loaded: "Check the old finance folder. He left traces." My heart sank. Even though Ethan had been suspended, it seemed he had set up a secondary scheme to cover his tracks or perhaps implicate someone else. I opened the finance folder on the shared drive. Hidden in a subfolder labeled Archives, 2023 were files showing additional approvals that had never gone through proper channels. One file was marked with Ethan's initials, but surprisingly, the author metadata showed a different account, someone else on the team. My pulse quickened. I debated whether to flag this immediately. If Ethan had managed to manipulate these files before his suspension, it could reignite suspicion toward innocent colleagues, or worse, make it seem like the problem wasn't fully solved. I decided to pull IT in, forwarding the folder for a full forensic review. Claire, who had been updating me on Ethan's HR case, looked concerned when I showed her the folder. "If this is another scheme, we need to handle it carefully. We can't accuse anyone without proof," she said. I realized the drama wasn't fully over. Even with the main culprit exposed, the ripple effects of his deception had left trails that could cause chaos if ignored. And as I stared at the files, a new notification blinked on my computer: someone had just accessed the same folder remotely. The remote access alert set my nerves on edge. I immediately called IT, asking them to trace the connection. The logs came back within minutes. The access had originated from Ethan's personal VPN setup. He was attempting one last maneuver from home before his suspension took full effect. I gathered all evidence: the badge logs, vendor emails, Slack messages, backup files, and now the remote access attempt. With Claire and Renee present, I laid it out in chronological order. Everything points to Ethan. Every manipulated file, every staged email, even the remote VPN activity, I said firmly. Ethan, still technically on suspension, was called in for a final review. He tried to argue, but the mountain of evidence left him with no room to maneuver. Claire, Renee, and IT walked him through each item, exposing the full extent of his elaborate scheme. By the end of the session, he was asked to clear out his desk and leave the premises. The tension in the office slowly dissolved. Team members exchanged quiet smiles, acknowledging the ordeal we'd survived. Claire promised stricter protocols and a renewed focus on internal security to prevent anything similar. I finally leaned back at my desk, exhausted but triumphant. It was over, or so I thought, until a Slack ping reminded me just how high stakes and subtle office sabotage could be. The lesson was clear: vigilance, patience, and calm thinking could expose even the most cunning manipulations. And now, everything depended on how we rebuilt trust. Weeks later, Ethan's HR case concluded. He was terminated, and the company ensured no one else was implicated. His attempts at manipulation backfired completely, his reputation in the industry took a hit, and the team finally breathed easy knowing the full story. I received personal apologies from colleagues who had doubted me, and even Claire publicly acknowledged my composure and dedication. The office adopted stricter security protocols, two-factor authentication, mandatory VPN checks, and more transparent approval workflows. It felt good to see lessons learned the hard way, preventing future sabotage. Reflecting on the ordeal, I realized how easily trust can be exploited and how important it is to stay calm under pressure. In the end, patience and attention to detail won over deceit and manipulation. Karma had its way, and the person who tried to bring me down ended up dismantling his own career. The moral is simple: integrity matters, and shortcuts never pay off. Those who scheme might find temporary success, but truth and diligence always surface. Have you ever faced a coworker who went to extreme lengths to sabotage you? Share your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more workplace drama and real office twists that test patience, wit, and resolve.